Okay, so for the second time, I'm just going to restart what I said earlier. Thanks, Coulter. All right, so we're gonna do this tutorial on how to make a DNA helix with expression in After Effects, as seen on my Instagram stories. So apparently, people really want to learn how to make this, and the expression that we're gonna write today is not very difficult. So let's begin. Let's go, first of all, create a new composition with Command N. I'm gonna make it 500 pixel by 500, and then we can make it 20-second long. Click OK. First thing we want to do is right-click New Now Objects and rename it to Control. And then I'm gonna go to my Effects and Preset, Preset panel. Type in Slider Control, and I'm gonna need about 3 sliders. So let's duplicate it with Command D. And the first one will be called Amplitude. And the second one, let's call it Vel for velocity, so how fast it is. And then the third slider control will be the size of the circles. Right? So let's create a circle first with our ellipse tool. Let's double click on it. And let's get rid of the stroke. And let me just zoom out so you guys can see. So we're going to press UU so we can open up the properties. And option click on the size, and then pick whip it into the size slider in our control now. So this allows us to control the size of the circles of the helix later. So it's much easier to do it this way. And the next thing we want to do, let's rename this this circle to be, let's call it 1. And let's press S to get the scale. And then we're gonna type in whole option, click on the stopwatch, and then we're gonna get 2 values. We need to plug in our slider. So we only need the velocity, so just type in val is equals to, let me just actually shift this like that. Scrap the val, pick whip it to the slider control, all right? And then we're gonna type t is equals to time times math dot pi, so we're getting the pi value, times let's see, time actually divided by the val, and then after that we're gonna type in x is equals to 100 times math dot sin, and then t. So I'll explain this how this works in the later on. Okay, let's play it. So it's not working because let's see, what did I do wrong? I have my semicolon. Oh wait, sorry, my val is at 0, that's why. So let's set it to 1. Okay, so you can see it's kind of like pulsing, and you can see the scale is going from 0 and then to going 100 and going to negative. So how this works is because of this function called Math.sin. So it's just returning the sign value of what we're inputting. So to kind of show you how it works, I'm going to type in, I'm going to just solo this layer, right? And I can actually I can go into source tag and type the formula. So if I type math.sin and then I put in time, right? And we can see this is the value that's returning. And then let me just type in to fix, so I can just round it up to 2 decimal point. So you can see that, let me just increase the font size. Let's see, let me increase the font size like that. So when we use the math.sin value, you can see it's going from 0. It's going from 0 to 1, and then it's going back into and then going to negative 1. So right now it's a bit fast, so you can just go time divided by 2 to kind of see the effect. Okay, so that's cool. So so we're using this sign value to kind of have the scale become bigger and then become smaller, and it just repeats forever because it's a sine wave. And the one thing about using this function is that if you were to time times math.pi, right? What this will do is that at every 1 second, I think it was 1 second. Let me just zoom in. So at every 1 second, it will complete one oscillation. So right now it's at 1, right? So it starts off from 0 and it ends at 0. So at 1 second. So the math.pi, the pi value kind of, how do I say this? It's like, I don't know. So the math.pi will kind of just basically round it up to make sure that the phase only run for 1 second. So if you want this to be like 2 seconds long, you can do I think math.pi times 2. Not sure will it make it faster, or yeah, so times 2. So this will, at every half a second, it's going to complete. So if I want this to be 2 seconds long, I need to, for one round of like oscillation, right? If I want to be 2 seconds long, I need to do math.pi divided by 2. And so, as you can see, right now it's at 2 seconds and the value is at 0. Okay, so that's the concept of Math.sin. If you're still confused, you can go to this website. Where is it? Where's my Chrome? Okay, there we go. W3 School. Well, so, I mean, this is a good place to reference the math function in After Effects, like math.round, power. And so I think if I just search math.sin, there you go. Return, basically we're getting the value between -1 and 1, right? It's pretty brief, but this is pretty much what it does. Okay, so back to After Effects. Let me get rid of this text layer and turn on my, let's see, my ball. Okay, so it's going from 0 to, it's going from scale 0 and then becoming bigger and repeating over and over again. Okay, so that's one part done. And if I want it to be faster, right? That's why I put in the val slider control. Now I can make it, if I want to be faster, I can just put a negative 0.5. It's not negative. 0.5 will kind of make it have the speed twice as fast. But I'm going to keep the speed at 1 for now. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is the position, right? So whatever the helix that we're creating, it's all an illusion. You know, it's not 3D. It's just scaling and position that's happening. I didn't make any 3D layers. So the next thing we need to do is to oscillate the Y position. Okay, so we can actually copy this and then paste it onto, click on the Y position and paste it there. It's not going to work. I'm just going to paste it there first. Because this is now just a single value. It's not an array. We need to get rid of this. And also, let's see, we need our amplitude, because now we're dealing with the length of the DNA helix, of the strand of the helix. So m is equals to, let's grab our slider, right? So think of m means amplitude. So it's like the length. You can think of it as the length of how long the helix will be, or the strand will be. Okay, so I'm going to set the strand to be the amplitude to be 100 first, and then I need to replace this 100, right, to be the m variable. And you can see right now it's hovering at the top. This is because it's generating a value starting from 0. We need to translate it back to its center value. So this composition is actually 500 by 500. So we need to plus 250. So depending on the comp size, you just need to divide the height by 2 and then plus it to your x. Let's call this v so it doesn't confuse anybody. A v for value. So plus 250 will solve the problem. It will center in the middle like that. And another way, instead of doing the math manually, you can type in this dot width divided by 2. It's the same thing. So it's going to get the width, which is 500, and divided by 2. So it's the same thing. So we also need to speed this up. Right now it's just going back. It's just swinging back and forth. We want the Y position to be twice as fast as the scale oscillation. So we can do so by just typing at the end of this variable, we just put in times 2. And you can see it kind of simulates like it's going around and round, right? So this first step is done. Now we need to duplicate this composition. Sorry, not composition. This layer, and I'm just going to give it a different color. Okay, and right now it's sharing the same value, right? I'm going to press S and P to get all my expression out. Actually, I don't need an expression that we use, but we are going to use an expression. So the expression we're going to use, right? This is a little bit easier. We basically need to have the same oscillation as, you know, our first circle, but just half this at it needs to be half the speed faster, so just one phase faster. So to explain, just to show you, so I'm going to grab the scale, option click, right? I'm going to grab the scale value, and then I'm going to get a value at time. So basically I'm referencing the value from the scale, right? At basically, so it'll be the same. The value will be the same if I do it like that. So I need to offset it. So let's create a variable called offset. And the offset is equals to, right, the frequency divided by 2. So I'm going to take the offset, pick with it to the velocity, the val, and then type in /2, semicolon, and then go to time minus offset. Okay? And you can see I need to do the same thing, right? So I'm going to copy this as well and paste it to the Y so you guys can see it in action. So I just paste it onto the Y position, and I need to change the scale to, instead of scale, I need to just get rid of all this first, pick with it to the Y position, and then make sure you have your dot in between. And there you go. We simulate it like this using just position and scale. We simulate like spinning around, right? Hopefully you guys can see it. And the next thing we need to do is just to create the lines, okay? The line in between. So let's double click on the rectangle tool. So one cool trick is to create lines. You can, I'm gonna press UU on this shape layer. Let's rename it to line first, and I'm gonna change the label to yellow. If you uncheck the constraint proportion and set the width to 0, and you can now create just a single line using the stroke, right? So it's much easier than using like a pen tool and then you create a line. So it's just faster. And the first thing, so we gotta do the same thing for scale, right? So we can actually copy this, copy the expression from the scale, from the scale from the layer circle 1 into our line and see what happens. So it's kind of working. So one thing we need to fix first is the length of the length of this line, right? So we can do, the length needs to be twice the length of the amplitude. So we need to create an array 0, comma, because we want this to stay 0 forever. Okay, let's go to our control, 0, comma, let's grab our amplitude times 2. And then make sure you close it with a square bracket. Okay, so it's almost there, but it's kind of wonky. Let's go back to our scale, right? So let's see. I believe this needs to be twice as fast. So if I was to times 2 with the scale, that should fix the problem. Yeah, there you go. That fixed the problem. It just needs double the speed. And we can create this strand already. So we can see now with our control, we can, oh, I am lagging. Oh, it looks like I have a lot of drop frames, so I guess the recording, the viewing experience is not the best. So we have this, we can now, using the now control, we can control the size of the circle, right, which I can set 50, and I have my M to control the length of my strand. So now that's a little bit too much, so let's set it back to maybe 250. 250 is fine, maybe even just 200. And then I can control my velocity. Let's see, maybe 0.5. Oh wait, that 0.5 will speed it up. So 2 will slow it down. Let's make the size of the circle a little bit bigger, so 100. Okay, and then let's increase maybe the stroke to be 10. Yeah, so something like that. Okay, so we completed one strand right here. Let's Command K and just rename it. And so we're now going to create the whole helix. Let's hit Command N to create a new composition. Let's call it Helix. I'm going to call it Helix underscore demo, and create a width 1920 by 1080. And then hit return. And I'm going to drop in my strand over here. So wait, that's not the right one. Let's see. My strand is, let me just review composition in project. That is the correct one. Okay, let's put it here. So I have one strand. So the idea is to, now that I got my one strand, let's put it on the left side. Let's duplicate it several times, Command D, right? And you can grab one of the strand and put it on the other side. And if you select all of them now, or Command A, and go to Align to, and hit Distribute horizontally, there you go. And then it's distributed evenly, right? So the next thing to do is that it's kind of offset it automatically. You don't want to do this, right? You don't want to manually just stagger the layer. So let's avoid that. So let's undo. Let's create a new now object. Let's call it control. And then I'm going to put it at the top, and then also get my slider control. And this will be called the time offset. So we're going to use time remapping to get to where we want. And let's see. Actually, let's put a control at the bottom. So at the layer 2, right? So let's just say layer 1 is the master. I'm going to put rename it to be master. And then let's press scale. Sorry, not scale. Let's right click on the second layer strand and type right click time remapping. And then what you want to do is option click on the stopwatch, and let's see, we want to type in time minus, let's see, time minus, go to the control, index, and then times this offset over here. Okay, so if I were to set this to be like, let's say put 0.1, right? It's playing, it's just basically it's offsetting based the time it's playing by 0.1 second. For okay, actually for it's a second layer, so it's a second layer, so it will be in the index is 2 times 0.1, right? So it will offset by 0.2 seconds. So actually I could copy this and then paste it to the other strand. And there you go. We have created our DNA helix, right? So very simple line of expression. How this thing might break, right, is that if you grab like some random layer, let's say this null layer, and put it in between, actually it still works. Maybe it's so subtle that you can see it. So you don't really want to mess with the index number, right? You don't want to have any layers in between it. Let's see, I place it on top. Yes, yeah, you can see that it's the first strand is a little bit faster. Everything is in sequence, but you can see this one, the first strand here, seems to be it's not in sync because the sequence is because it's based on the sequence number. Right now, my now layer is at the top, so the number changed. So if I place this now layer at the bottom, right, you can see the timing change. And so let's play it, and there you go, it's working. And so in my Instagram story, I also use master property to kind of make my life easier. So basically I can change the property from within. You don't want to go inside all the time and mess around with the settings, and then you go back out and then you play it to see it, right? So we can easily kind of like have the value out on the open. So if you were to go into window, let's see, essential graphics, so you get this new panel, right? So actually let me rename this strand underscore demo because I have multiple composition with the same name. Select the composition, in this essential graphics panel. Select the composition that has the strand in it, so it's strand underscore demo. You don't have to rename it. So what I can do now is go to my control now layer, and then you have to open up the one thing about using master property is that you have to grab the slider control like that. You can't grab it from I don't think you can grab it from the effects. You see, you can click on it. You can't do this. Wait, can you? Yeah, you can't do it. You can't just grab all this slider control from the effects panel and drop it in. So that's something I wish Adobe can fix. But you can grab, so you have to open up the effects and grab the slider like that. And let's rename it. So amplitude and val. And I also wish they automatically rename it based on the name of the effect. So okay, and then once you've done that, all right, let's go back out into our Helix demo, and I can let me just undock this panel. so we can see clearly. All right, so now the magic begins. Okay, instead of going to the composition or trying to find like where's trying to find the correct values to the correct properties to change, I can now use this essential graphics panel to change my design like that. So I'm changing the amp right now. Oh, we need to fix one more thing later. Because you can see like there's because the green, as the ball becomes smaller, is still appearing on top. We'll write a simple expression to fix that. So yeah, using master property, I can just increase. Yeah, I can just change my design or animation just from here. So it's very simple. If you build this toolkit or like this setup or rig, and then just give it to someone, you tell them just to open up this panel. You have what they need, and yeah, so it's just easier to manage. You can see I changed the velocity, and it's changing as well. So I can set this to be maybe 0.5, and it'll be faster. And then I can increase the size of the ball, a circle, be 20, like that. And maybe if you want to have more control, right? Maybe because right now that slider is from 0 to 100, you can actually just change it to the default value. So I think the only one I want to change is for the amplitude. So it's maybe 0 to 300, right? So I can just have longer length of my strand. Okay, so that's looking very weird. Let's actually set my velocity back to 1 and my size back to 50. And right now the composition size is a little bit too small. That's why it's doing that. So let's set it back to 200. So I can always go back to my composition, just increase the comp height, and that will solve the problem. So yeah, that's looking fine, right? So one last thing to go through is that we're almost done with the tutorial and almost done with the live stream. So you guys have any question, please ask them away, and you can ask about anything. It doesn't have to do with this tutorial. It can be just motion design in general or After Effects tips and tricks. Okay, but if there's no question, right? Okay, so this setup I wanted to do it with as little layer as possible. So I only want to have 4 layers. But the problem is that when right now the layer, this is the red one. Actually, I rename this layer red, and then the layer 1, circle 1 to be, let's call it green. And so the layer red, a red circle is on top, so it's gonna show up on top no matter what, right? So first of all, I gotta put this red below, but then so you might think that solved the problem, but the thing is, when the green becomes smaller, right? The green becomes smaller. Now it's on top. Okay, so you can create a third layer and have it overlap, but an easier way to do this is that if you know that the scale is going to be hiding, when it's this small, it should be hiding behind. So basically, it should be gone. We can write a conditional statement. So let's press T to get our opacity, and then after that, also press S to get a scale. So when the scale is like less than maybe 5.5, it should disappear. Let's go 1 frame up. So you see, it's not touching each other yet, so that's fine. So perhaps any value under 10, it should disappear. Or if you want to play it safe, it'll be as close to the circle. So you want to get the scale value of as close to the circle as possible. So in this case, 5.5, but we're gonna round it up. Maybe let's do 6. So that's option click on the opacity, and then let's pick width. Let's grab our scale. We're gonna write an if statement. So if parentheses pick width to the scale is less than or equals to, so this is a condition we're setting up. So if it's less than 6, curly bracket, so this is the statement, what's going to happen? The value is going to be 0. Else, so basically what happens if that's not the case? So it's going to be 100. Okay, and you can see this doesn't solve the problem because we're grabbing an array. We're grabbing transform.scale. We need to just select one part, either the x or the y. So you can just modify this expression with a square bracket, 0. So we're grabbing the x scale from the layer. and that solved the problem. But another problem emerges, right? I'm going to show you. Well, actually, you guys can't. I guess. There you go. Yes. Suddenly it disappeared, right? That's because it's going to a negative scale, right? Even though when it's at a negative scale, it's supposed to be there. So we gotta make sure that every time it's at a positive value, at a positive 5 value, we gotta make this every negative the value. We gotta make every negative value to be positive for this condition. So how we do this is using a function called math.absolute. So I'm gonna copy this transform.scale, right? This property over here, and I'm gonna replace it with an s and type in here math.abs, which is math.absolute, and paste in whatever I just copied. And that will solve the problem. And if you guys, so how this function works is that it basically returns the positive value of x. So anything that's negative become positive. So we now know that, so we're not dealing with negative number in our condition. And then you can see it works like that. Let me just double click, reset my work area. All right, so thank you all for all the support on the live chat. I'm glad that this is helpful, and actually we're done. You know, we created, using Math.sin, we created the oscillation of the scale and the length, right? And then after that, we created Helix just using by value at time. Let's see, I press EE. Yeah, just using not value at time, time remapping. We're just like using the index to subtract the time when it starts. So instead of starting at 0, you might just want to start it at like maybe 1 second where it's already playing. There's a lot of workaround for this technique, but I'm just showing you guys one way of doing it. So we also learn how to troubleshoot, you know, like what happens, how to be lazy with expression. So yeah, I think that's about it. And if you guys have any questions, put in the live chat. Also, let's see, I recently released a tutorial on a master study on ordinary folks, so check it out if you haven't. And I also have a Patreon, so if you guys want to support me, you can, I don't know, where's my comment, c.NoSleepCreative. So yeah, so if you guys want to support me on Patreon, I have I have a Patreon. Let me just actually, I'll open incognito and do it again because I'm logged in. So yeah, right now I only have one tier because I used to have more tiers, but then I realized that I pretty much give everything out for free. You know, my tutorials on YouTube, on Instagram, and even the stuff on Gumroad. So you know, your support is just basically helps me keep going. I make tutorial every single week, either on YouTube or Instagram. So yeah, hopefully you guys will consider supporting me. And if there's no questions, and I shall end this live stream now. Oh, thank you, Royale, for the kind words on the live chat. Kind of sucks that, you know, that the live chat will disappear once this live stream ends, and no one can see like what I'm talking about. Basically, I'm just like thanking people like in this recording. But yeah, hit me up if you guys have any expression question. Hit me up on Instagram. That's a good place to get hold of me. And if not, that's all I have for you guys, and I'll see you next time.